Welcome to Santa Cruz Naturalist. I'm Emily Donham. And this week on our show, we're headed to Elkhorn Slough and Moss Landing, where I was able to spend the day with UCSC graduate student Kat Beheshti and her team of undergraduate researchers as they explored the salt marsh habitats of the slough. Here's Kat now.
So if you look in the distance, you see all these rolling hills, and then just below the rolling hills is salt marsh. And the salt marsh is really low-lying plants, basically, that are no higher than your knee, and they just blanket the entire landscape until you keep looking and going maybe from the hill and moving towards the channel, and then you see all these little creeks that kind of meander their way throughout the salt marsh habitat. And then within the salt marsh habitat, you have a whole bunch of little mud flats, you have some salt pans, you have some really shallow creeks that basically fragment the salt marsh habitat, and then you have deeper tidal creek channels, and that's how the system kind of drains. So if you imagine the tide coming in and the water moving through the main channel, it's going to start to go into the tidal creeks, and then the tidal creeks are going to start to fill. It's going to go through all those burrows, and it's going to go through all those shallower creeks and into the salt pans, and all of it's going to fill. And then when the tide goes out, it's going to drain from the pans, drain from the shallow creeks, drain from the tidal creek, and go out into the Monterey Bay Canyon. Look at the burrows. Yeah. So those are my packies. Those are the native line shore crab. Yeah.
So cute. So could you tell me a little bit more about why you're interested in the crabs and these burrows that they're creating in this mud?
Yeah, sure. So these crabs are burrowing crabs. They're an ecosystem engineer, which means that they are modifying the environment that they occur in through the construction of these burrows. And these burrows are, they can be as big as 4 or so centimeters wide. And what happens is that when they burrow, we have seen from our experiments that causes a decrease in percent cover of vegetation and a decrease in the actual biomass of the plants that cover the marsh. And so that decrease in actual productivity of the marsh ends up compromising the stability of these vulnerable bank edges where we already see really rapid bank erosion.
It's like you have this bank and they're burrowing into the side of it, and then they're affecting the vegetation that's above.
Yeah, so we actually have done lab experiments that show that the crabs will eat the below ground root material. So either passively through clipping and maintaining their burrows, or through actually actively eating the below ground root material, they're destabilizing the bank in the below ground, and the bioturbation of the burrows themselves actually has resulted in a decrease in percent cover. You guys mind tossing the anchor? Yeah. Thank you. Great. Thank you.
It reminds me, though, I didn't realize it was going to look like this, but it's like Swiss cheese.
Yeah. That's the analogy we use, is that the bank faces look like Swiss cheese, as does the marsh plain. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So do you consider these guys like gophers of the salt marsh?
Yeah, they are kind of like gophers. And I don't know enough about gophers but I don't know very much about gophers. But these crabs, they create these like networks. So their burrows, like, it's almost like this like underground community. And it's really cool because if you like pour like colored water in a single burrow through a funnel, you'll see that water sprout up meters away, which means that those burrows are connected into like underground in a way that like no one has quantified yet in this particular system. And so that's why we do these burrow molds, to kind of get at what's going on below ground with the geomorphology of the burrows. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah, super cool.
You've been listening to Santa Cruz Naturalist. Special thanks to my guest, Kat Beheshti, and as always, to all of you for tuning in.